Hi. In this episode, we discuss artwork by the artist Elliot Mitchell. Elliot Mitchell is non-binary, uses they-them pronouns, and is Rebecca Gay's child. However, in the original edit of this episode that was released, we used improper pronouns when highlighting and discussing Mitchell's work. The instances of this have since been removed, and we wanted to use this disclaimer to both apologise sincerely to Elliot Mitchell and anyone who was let down by our mistake, and also to reaffirm our commitment to do better. Thank you. As Magic mainline sets push their concepts higher and higher, so too can secret layers branch off to fill different creative spaces, and with the latest Super Drop, we see collections of cardboard exploring both cult fandoms and deeper, more universal human experiences. Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast. We talk about all things magic, flavour, design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And you are joining us in between both of us doing 12-hour shifts at our jobs. We're recording this on a Wednesday morning after having worked on Tuesday night and then going to be working again today. Nathan, you're in a hotel with phone Wi-Fi.
Glamrous, glamorous.
Oh, so if we drop out, if we seem tired, if we cough up our lungs because we've been running around like dickheads. Crazy people. I couldn't even think of the word. That's why. But we're here. We wanted to put out an episode because we don't want to stop doing it, even if our jobs are very busy. So yes, this will be coming out a little bit later than our usual time slot. But I think we've already let people know that we are going back to a slightly less regular time schedule. But we are here, and we are talking about Magic the Gathering. Not the Magic the Gathering that is currently being released, which is we are in spoiler season. I mean, when are we not? I suppose we're in spoiler. Right. We are in spoiler season for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and it does look pretty rad.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about that shit, but we'll have time to break that down later.
Yeah, we'll do proper episodes, and we'll actually go and get into it. Because the lore, obviously, you and I aren't huge up on, but we can talk about magic cards, and there are some magic cards coming out.
There are definitely some magic cards, yeah.
Today, we're going to double back a couple of weeks, because, this would be current news if this was 2 years ago. We are going to be talking about the Secret Lair, all-natural, totally refreshing super drop that was released June 17th. I think it's around the time where this was kind of coming out. And this is this year's summer drop. And it's pretty cool. There's a lot to get through. I think we do a lot of these Secret Lair episodes, and we try to spend a considerable amount of time on most of them, especially when it comes to the super drops. I think today we're just going to say hello and goodbye to the ones where they're like, yeah, they're fine, but there are a couple of these that some of them are very, very good.
They always are, right? They always manage to sneak in one that I'm like, oh, fucking, they did it again. The little sneaky bastards. Whereas there are always some that I'm like, And I feel like this happened with the Lightning Bolt on Ornithology kind of, that super drop, right? Of where there were some that were clearly very much for some people, some that were very clearly for other people. There were some that we got super excited about, others we weren't too fussed about. But I think that's kind of the point of the super drops, is that they don't just go, this is something that everyone might want. This is like, let's just do a little spread, like a various spread, everything from alpha throwbacks to like Studio Ghibli inspired art. And I'm like, okay, that's fine by me. Again, throw everything at the wall and hope it sticks, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's one of these super drops that is very close to making me buy my first ever Secret Lair, but I'm stubborn. I'm holding out, even though my moral feelings towards Secret Lairs, Super Jar, even though my moral feelings towards them is still a little bit shaky. Like, I appreciate them, obviously, as we've spoken before, as artistic endeavors. The actual model of selling them, I think, is a bit grim. But I almost buckled with one of them, so they are getting closer to breaking the wills of us stubborn holdouts. Let me say that much. But there we go. So let's go through it.
Yeah. Let's hit it off. There's enough to talk about. Go ahead.
There's enough to talk about, man. There's enough to talk about. So we're going to go down in order. So let's start with Saturday Morning D&D. Saturday Morning D&D is a collection of 6 cards with art from the is it the late 80s, early 90s D&D TV cartoon? It wasn't.
83 to 85,
Oh well,
apparently,
there we go
original
then. Oh right.
release.
Well
Yeah.
then, if it was ever released in the UK for syndication, it probably did come out a little bit later on because
Yeah.
80s television from the US tended to come over to the UK a little bit later on. Yeah, so these are 6 cards with art from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. Obviously, because of Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, they are paying a lot of homage to the actual like tabletop game of D&D, and Stranger Things got a Universes Beyond set, and obviously Stranger Things has a lot of direct influences from Dungeons and Dragons as well, so they're really going whole in on the IP and celebrating it in every and any way that people engage with the game, like in whatever media they want to do. Yeah, pretty cool. Some magic artists as well, like getting involved in doing like almost like it's essentially fan art, really, isn't it? It's Tyler Walpole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like throwback, and the thing is, it's like it's really like close to the mark in terms of like animation style and everything. They did a really really good job of capturing that feel of like of 90s, late 80s 90s cartoons where it has that kind of razzle dazzle kind of look to it.
Mm.
Um, I know
Yeah,
there's a
very
couple of people.
evocative. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that like used to watch this, and they were like, "Oh man, I haven't seen Venga in years. Like, what a throwback!" Like, so there's a card on the card Hero's Downfall,
Mm.
and shows Venga, who's like the bad guy, kind of looking through his like orb of insight into the party as they travel, which obviously happened in the series, and it's like a proper like kick in the nostalgia for those that watch the series.
I kind of feel like every single Saturday morning cartoon which had a overarching villain and a group of heroes, in the opening title credits there was always a scene of the villain looking in some sort of spyglass or peering pool looking at the heroes doing a thing. I think like
Mm-hmm.
He-Man, Thundercats, Dungeons and Dragons, the fucking like even Transformers might have had a version of it.
Power
I feel there was
Rangers,
all
right? Didn't
yeah,
they look at
always
that weird like
something.
soupy thing, like
Yeah.
to be able to see the creep? Yeah,
They
always.
loved it. They loved the villain being able to go, I'm watching you do your thing. Like, what are you doing, mate? You're literally just watching TV. Like, you're watching TV with us. That's what you're doing. The cards in this super drop, or in this particular one, a Commander Sphere, War of Invention, Hero's Downfall, Unbreakable Formation, Primal Vigor, and Impact Tremors. I mean, an interesting collection of cards. They all seem to fit pretty well with what they want to do. Commander Sphere is the only one I'm a bit like, oh, you really crowbarred that one in, right?
Technical dud, right? This is one of the
Yeah.
things we'll talk about as we go through. Is I think every single secret lair has like a deliberate, like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's not. I guess they're not all heaters, right? There's always this
Mm.
one that I'm like, oh, you could have not included that, included something else. I think this happened when I bought the fairy gem, very cool one.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like, I don't need a spell starter sprite. Like, it's really cool. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I haven't got anyone to fucking put this shit. I don't need this. Even though I was really happy with the other cards, I feel like they do that every time. Of where, in the same way, there are multiple layers. Some of them don't hit the mark. That within each layer, there's a card that you're like, I guess it's just
There's
cool
always
to have
one.
it.
Yeah, there's always one.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but other than that, I think, like, speaking from not just a Magic News perspective, which this kind of is, but from a sort of Vorthos versus Mel perspective, like the others, War of Invention, Heroes Downfall, Impact Tremors, Primal Vigor, Unbreakable Formation, they all are very good choices for the characters they depict. Like, I think they hit it out of the park with this one.
Yeah, the art style's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyler Walpole absolutely smashed it.
Yeah.
Not much more to say about that one, unless you like the cartoon, which I don't, so I have nothing more to say on it. Sorry. Okay, moving on. We are so tired. Fantastic. All right, okay. Next up, we have Artist Series, Mark Paul. Thank you, Wizards, for giving more Artists Series. This is like a home run, right? Who doesn't want secret layers from like all Magic artists? Just give every Magic artist a secret layer. Just like that would be, if they said we're bringing out a new premium product that's going to cost fucking X thousands of pounds by that point. It's going to be monthly and it's going to release all the time. Having an artist series just as their own like drop, I think, yeah, fuck it. You don't have to get every one. You just get the ones that you want, and every Magic artist gets celebrated. So yeah, good on them.
Yeah, my question is whether, because obviously when Seb McKinnon did his, he had like an article release, right, of where he kind of spoke about all of his favorite cards and why he did these specific cards, and like there was even like a storyline through them. Obviously, there's a couple of them in this super drop. There's a couple of artists. They don't have the same. They didn't have the same delivery, as it were, right? Like they didn't necessarily seem to go like, "Oh, okay, let me talk about like my favorite cards and talk about like my introduction to the game and all that nonsense." I think obviously we were just blessed with Seb McKinnon, and we do not deserve him. Saying that, it's really cool to see someone like Mark Paul, someone who's been, to be an artist since like Alpha, and have some cards that not only have massive throwbacks, things like Birds of Paradise, and we get to see like the OG artwork come back again, but also cards like Brainstorm and Balance, like some big iconic cards that have new artwork. That was like, oh, okay, you're not just repurposing the counterspell. You're not just like giving us Howling Mine back again, which they're also doing, but hey, here's also a Brainstorm and a Balance. I mean, the thing that annoys me, right, is Balance is a really fucking cool card, and I only really play Commander, and I can't play Balance, and it sucks. It sucks. It's really annoying because I really want to play Balance, and I know.
You find that with a lot of Commander cards, or cards that are kind of useless in Commander, where you sort of think, this would be like, it's all of those spells that say, take this and any other card named that card out of another person's deck. Or, like, what was it, like Maelstrom Pulse? Unless someone else is playing a tokens deck, it's kind of fucking useless. But so, yeah, I do agree with you. Balance is one of those really cool effects that you think, my format just doesn't support it.
Yeah, and again, it's really unfair. I mean, if you leverage it and lean into it, but I mean, I feel like if Armageddon's legal, like Balance should be legal. That's a whole other question.
Come on, legality is not the same as morality and EDH, Nathan. You know that.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. I mean, we could have a big discussion. This is something we haven't actually.
Shout out to all the Armageddon players that I just dunked on there.
I mean, this is maybe a conversation we can have at some point when we look at the ban list for Commander and go, okay, from our perspective, our isolated perspective of being peons that just play the game and have massive opinions about it, maybe talk about whether or not we agree or don't agree with them. Anyway, we're talking about Mark Paul.
So these are 6 cards in the Mark Paul Artist series. You've got Balance, Birds of Paradise, Brainstorm, Wasteland, Howling Mine, and Counterspell. With, I think these are, for things like Birds of Paradise and Counterspell, which are the OG Mark Paul artworks for them, this is the first time that they're in the kind of current border, and they're in premium version as well. I think that's the kind of special thing about them. Yeah. And then you've got new artworks for Brainstorm, Balance, and is it Wasteland, which shows a city of grass?
Yeah, I thought it shows a Library of Alexandria, and it quotes
Library of Alexandria. Yes.
Yeah, because it quotes it in the flavor text, right? Where it says the library scrolls have long since crumbled into swirling desert sands, which is quite cool because I reckon back in the day, that's one of the lands you really wanted to kill with a Wasteland, right? If someone turned one's Library of Alexandria, that's like pretty fierce. So wastelanding, it's not like a bad idea, which is quite cool. It's like a throwback. It's quite cool that we got new flavor text for Brainstorm as well. Didn't get flavor text for Balance because the text box apparently doesn't need it. I would have liked like a little final line of something like "All's fair, right?" or something like that, to kind of lean into the whole fact that they know that Balance isn't a balanced card, which is its own irony in and of itself. But
is the story for Birds of Paradise, the Mark Paul artwork, is the story that early in Magic, this was originally an artwork for Island, as in the land Island, but because the birds are so prominent, it didn't read right to whoever the artistic director was at that time, if that was really even a job that they were having at this point in Magic. And so they wanted to, because they didn't have a lot of money to keep paying artists to redo things, they just took his artwork and went, right, we'll just use this for a different card then. That's the story. I mean,
I would have liked to have seen this artwork on an island. Like they'd instead of like reprinting it as Birds of Paradise, just reprint it as another island.
Just reprint it as an island. That would be. I mean, that breaks the game in half, doesn't it? Like, it's not just the same card having different artworks. It's different cards having the same artwork.
Well, I guess, exactly. That's the problem, right? I guess they could have lent into the confusion a little bit and gone, throwback for those players that knew kind of, or I guess it's not even the old players, it's people that are interested enough to find out these things and research them, right? So maybe it's a bit too tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, I mean, it's so iconic now as well that you can't really get away from it.
No, very true, very true. All right, cool. Mark Paul, good on you for getting an Artist Series drop. Wizards of the Coast, you're definitely listening. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Next up, we have something similar, but slightly different. We have special guest Fiona Staples' Secret Lair, which are 5 cards by renowned comic book artist Fiona Staples. Fiona Staples, if you didn't know, is an Eisner-winning and Harvey Awards-winning comic book artist who's worked on a shit ton of comic book titles. So yeah, really cool to be getting them into the game, because the art style isn't something that you would find in regular sets, and even you'd be pushing it, I think, for something like a showcase, unless it was built around it, a little bit like a Core was built around sort of anime and manga style artworks. But we have 5 cards: Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Metallic Mimic, Sakura Tribe Elder, boo, Soulscar Mage, and Spell Queller. When will that? This is Sakura Tribe Elder.
Why did you boo Steve?
Because it's the Dreadmore of premium products.
Oh, I see what you mean. I guess, right? Fair enough. Because I look at
Do you
that
know
and I'm
what
like,
I
that's the
mean?
one card that I know, like, because he's Steve, it's infinitely playable, right?
Mm.
Like, and I don't know, out of all of them, I'm like, oh, it's quite nice. I think, like, I feel like because his original, like, old school artwork, like the OG artwork that they had for him, who, give me a second and I'll find out the Carl Critchlow did the OG one, right? And I feel like that kind of resonated for so long. It's quite nice that they've now done a few different ones, because obviously the
Yes, yes, yes.
Theo
I
Galadav,
agree.
like that promo one is now back in circulation again. So that's not even premium or new or different anymore. So it's quite nice to see a different take on it. Plus, this is as close to Ghibli as I think you can get on cards, right? Like in terms of like art style, like Fiona Staples has like a really, it feels
Yes,
very
what I
very
want to see. Do you know what? In response directly to you saying that, is I want to see Johannes Voss get a
fucking right.
secret lair where he's doing the more anime style versions of
Mm-hmm.
his artwork, because one of my favorite artists and some of the cards that illustrate for Magic have just been absolutely astounding. But there's
Yeah.
this other style. In fact, there's like he's got 2 or 3, because you go onto the Patreon and the tokens. He does the kind of plastic tokens, which are like the anime style usually, and then the paper ones, which are more like pencil illustrations, and they're nothing like the things that he produces for Magic. So yeah, but we're not talking about Janis Voss, but like I agree, and I think there is room for some artists to do it. But yes, Fiona Staples, the comic book style, the color palettes, the kind of the scenes. Like yes, Kura Tribe Elder isn't in battle or anything. They've got a bucket and they're getting water from a stream. Do you know what I mean? Like so, it is kind of cool. Metallic Mimic is a really interesting one actually. I'll just talk about the artwork for that. So the Metallic Mimic, which is for people who don't know, the ability is as Metallic Mimic enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Metallic Mimic is the chosen creature type, and in addition to its other types, each other creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. It's a 2/1 for 2. Originally printed in Kaladesh, right? And it was in the Kaladesh one, they kind of went down the idea of it being just like its own thing, like it was a filigree like construct, even though the creature type is shapeshifter, but it looked like a automaton that could potentially change into other things because it was all filigree and kind of like mechanical. This one, they've gone really hard into the idea that it's 2 goblin pirates, or well, 3 actually in the artwork, on a pirate ship doing piratey things, and in the middle of the scene is this robotic goblin pirate that's just kind of blending in and doing its own thing. Yeah, complete form and function blend, right? Like it is a metal creature now, and it's the same thing as everything else around it. Pretty cool.
Well, it's a way that I guess whenever they do like shapeshifters, they kind of fall into the thing of like, well, because it could be anything, let's show it before it decides what it wants to be, right? Because if you're like, oh, well, my metallic mimic wants to be a merfolk, so why have I got a goblin one? That is obviously the arguments you want to kind of let sit in the middle. But if you let it sit in the middle, it doesn't exactly give off the evocation of mimicking something. So it's quite nice that like Staples just went, fuck it, let's just show what a goblin metallic mimic would look like, and it gives it way more character, and it feels a little bit. It feels very. What was the explosives one? It kind of has that same kind of feeling as that one, of where it's kind of like really leaning into. It even feels a little bit unsetty with the way that it leans into the art style.
Because it's very very cartoony, doing the goblin thing.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And I really like it. I think it pops.
The other one in this set that I kind of want to just touch on is Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Very cool that they're reprinting it in some way, because obviously it's so connected to Theros that you'd have to maybe reprint it in some other kind of product. And it's because it's not that they acknowledge the secondary market. He says, talking about their literal secondary market product. It's too expensive really to reprint in any other products. But Dryad of the Elysian Grove, for those who don't know, is the 3-drop 2/4 that you can play an additional land on each of your turns, and all your lands tap for each other type in addition to its own type. So it's like a Chromatic Lantern. It was like a Zuza and Chromatic Lantern, which is kind of crazy. The artwork for it shows the Dryad leaning on a branch, and just like the original Dryad of the Elysian Grove artwork, sexy as hell.
Abs.
Abs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know we have a lot of bad language on this podcast. I don't know if I want to say what the colloquial term is for the hip bone tone that this guy's got going on. But they definitely have that. The thing I want to touch on with this artwork, because I actually think the artwork, aside from being like memey and thirsty for the fucking artwork, it's actually really really like cool and really understated as well. Like the Dryads obviously aren't very combative, especially on Theros, and so it is just kind of cool just to see one sort of chilling out. But the art direction seems to be almost exactly the same for the OG artwork, which showed a Dryad kind of loungily sitting on a tree branch with a with a city in the background, and this one is almost
Mm.
exactly the same thing. I just wonder whether they gave Fiona the same art breakdown, but was like, we just wanted you to do it in your art style, or whether it's something that she came to naturally. I wonder.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Of whether or not she just looked at all of the different arts and went, okay, okay, I see what you've done before. Let me do something different. And then she went, he's sexy boy. Let me keep him sexy. Because there's nothing saying that the dry. Because I mean, most dryers are female, right? And it's quite funny that like the two we've got for Dryad of Liz and Grove are both like dudes, and they're both like, hey y'all.
It is like, yeah. Again, aside from being very juvenile about it all, it is interesting actually to see fantasy characters that are usually presenting as female or presenting as feminine, at least, being presented in the masculine. We saw it as well with the Angels of Amonkhet, and it is kind of it sort of shouldn't be, but I suppose with fantasy tropes, you do have to adhere to them to then sometimes break them. So, as much as gender equity and for all, the tropes are there to then bend and break, and that's what makes things interesting. So yeah, it is interesting to sort of see the Dryad be presented in this way. I wouldn't have been upset if it was a female presenting Dryad. It just is it is just nice to see it again. It reminds me, the art style also reminds me a lot of, not that I've actually played it to my shame, reminds me of Hades, the roguelike on Switch.
Yes. Oh, great game. Yeah, very good. I was gonna say, I think Spellqueller looks fucking stunning.
There really is something quite. I watch a lot of horror because my wife watches a lot of horror, so therefore I watch a lot of horror, and I don't always enjoy it. The thing that because I'm not really into it, but the thing that the aesthetic I love and find equally terrifying are sheets concealing shapes. Right? There's a scene in the original Conjuring film where it's just a split-second thing where a sheet flies away in the wind, but it catches on like the shape of a person, like in which wasn't there, like an invisible person. It like catches on them and then flies away again, and that's like, oh my god, I lose my shit. So these geists from Innistrad, which are like chained up sheets over the top of a human shape. Oh Christ, they're terrifying. And even in Fiona's comic book style, they are absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I find that that's a visceral thing, right? Of where it's that thing of where I find what was mine. I didn't want to think about it, but growing up, I had a couple of films that like you happen to stumble in on when at the bad moment, and then it kind of sticks with you forever. It was the Tooth Fairy, I think. So the idea of like a face in the darkness—that's the thing that gets me, right? Like the porcelain. It was the porcelain mask in the darkness that got me. And Babadook. I think there was a film fairly recently. Babadook. Yeah, that idea of like white face out of the darkness, like with wide eyes or whatever. Like, yeah, that's my shits me up kind of thing.
Do you know there's a large contingent of people out there that think the Babadook is overrated and not that scary?
Well, I mean, tell that to my willies because they get all fired up whenever I think about the Babadook. I'd like my first like in memory like nightmare like fairly like about 3 or 4 months ago about the Babadook, and like I had the when you wake up going like from the dream going because you're trying to scare it away in the dream, and then you wake up scaring it in the dream, and like I think I was alone in the house that night for some reason, so I just randomly woke up shouting at a thing in the dream to try and make it like scary. So fuck those guys. Okay, Babadook's
terrifying.
Scary. Okay, I don't get
it's a terrifying film. If you don't think the Babadook is scary, then I don't want to meet you in a dark alley, put it that way, because you are a terrifying human. All right, let's move on. We have another special guest, Jen Bartel. This is a great Secret Lair for special guests. This is what they should be doing. I think almost the whole Secret Lair is like sort of different artists and things. So we have Jen Bartel. And Jen Bartel has illustrated Archaeomancer, Bloomtender, Meteor Golem, and Mesa Enchantress. I love all of the cards in this drop. The dud, if you had to pick one, what one do you think?
Mine's
Meteor
artistically,
Golem.
I think they're all great. Meteor Golem, yeah, right.
No, I mean
Maybe in terms of like
mechanically.
playability. Oh, okay, mechanically, I guess. But even, yeah, I guess. I mean, I think the other three of them are kind of like powerhouses, right? Like Mesa Enchantress is a tried and tested draw engine. Bloom Tender is obviously the breakout card out of this because one, it's quite expensive. Two, it's very powerful. Archaeomancer is known for all of its shenanigans. I know you specifically don't particularly like Archaeomancer because it does nonsense.
Well, no.
People that don't like it.
I like Archaeomancer. It's just it happens to be I've got it in 2 decks at the moment, and one of them is my Atris deck, which is a Flicker deck, and so it has groaned a lot of people when it's just like I have my bounce engines like Conjurer's Closet or Thassa. The new one, and they're like, oh, so you can just keep replaying that like extinction event. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Good luck keeping your tokens around.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
really like the card. I'm not gonna lie. Jen Bartel is also another Eisner winning comic book artist. Sorry if you didn't know. Lots of cover arts as well. So known for Star Wars, Women of the Galaxy, DC Women of Action, and also is the co-creator of Blackbird for Image Comics with Sam Humphries. So yeah, it's cool to see all these comic book artists coming in.
I really want to see them come in to do like non-layered drop cards, because Vendilion Click, I put it out on my Twitter. I don't post on Twitter very often, but I put out a little video of like when it arrived, because holy shit, that card is beautiful. I want to see Jen get some more some more cards in. Clearly, they're obviously leaning in. It's funny that they give certain artists that have only been used in a drop and then give them a full drop to themselves, even though they're not Magic artists. This is really interesting, right? Because I guess they're flexing into art styles that maybe that maybe are untraditional, that maybe they will look into pushing more in future sets. Like I don't see this art style necessarily. I mean, I guess some people might not like it because it's a bit too. It's not like that weird kind of photorealism thing that we're kind of moving into with Magic now. But at the same time, whatever. I quite like the diversity, and I quite like this pop effect. Like the striking colors of them are really like they're really good. Like they really like jumps out from the canvas at you. So I'd like to see maybe this is a hint that we're going to see some more Gen artwork and sets proper going forward. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, very, very cool. All right, moving on, because there's not much more to say about that other than they're very cool. We have Phyrexian Creators, the Complicate Edition. Now,
yeah.
Okay, so what this is, if you're not aware, is it's the original 5 Phyrexian Praetor cards with the new Phyrexian Praetor frame. So it's like a showcase frame for Phyrexians with the Phyrexian script. This is a tongue twister of a secret layer. With the Phyrexian script on the rest of the card. So if anyone has seen the Judge promo version of Elish Norn, where it's the regular card frame, or it would have been the modern card frame at the time, but with Phyrexian text, and it's one of like the most famous kind of alternate Magic cards in existence, because it was only a Judge promo. They only did it once, and it was the first card, I think, to have full Phyrexian text. They have now done them for all of the original 5, because also they did it for the new Vorinclex, so it's reasonable to assume that they're going to do them for all the new versions of the other creatures, in whatever form they take.
Hunter,
right?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not really much stylistically to talk about them, I suppose. If you like the original artworks, then you like the original artworks. I mean, Vorinclex by Karl Kopinski does just look terrifying. The Elish Norn artwork is obviously iconic. The thing to talk about, I suppose, is what do you think of the Phyrexian border, for a start?
I think it's a bit extra. Like, I don't think necessarily. I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
You know, like you already had the legendary border. You didn't need to make like the thing that really gets me is the power and toughness. Right? They've almost like used a deliberate like so instead of creating new Phyrexian text for numbers, they've just done like the normal numbers, but in like handwritten. It's really thin. It doesn't pop out at all. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna do all the language, why would they use traditional numbers? Like, and if you're gonna make the entire card like weird Phyrexian text, does it matter? Like, like you already can't read it. Just do the numbers as well. That's the thing that gets me, right? Is I feel like they kind of leaned into it. They're like, oh, we want to keep it still looking like a Magic card, but Phyrexian. I'm like, okay, fine, but did they all need it? Not really. Are they all super playable? I mean, it'd be on Shouldered. Like, I mean, everyone hates Vorinclex, right? No one wants that card in play in EDH whatsoever. Same with Jin. No one resolves a Jin, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's really cool." Someone resolves a Jin, and everyone goes, "Well, fuck you, buddy." Like Elish is like the only one that's forgivable because Urabrask again is kind of like slightly. I don't want to say unplayable because I think Urabrask is the coolest out of them, but probably sees like it's like the least powerful. Out of all of them, and even then, like Elish was the pinnacle one, right? It was the Lady Gaga, right? And everyone really wanted the Phyrexian artwork, and I feel like it really diminishes from. And this is like the Sterling Grove argument, right? Of where I didn't have too much to say about when they reprinted it into Modern Horizons 2, and I was like, okay, I mean, fair enough, they're getting that artwork out there again. I wouldn't mind, for example, like say the Birthing Pods that they've released with that same Judge promo to be available more readily to people. I felt kind of bad for the fact that not only do you put it, it's not in a set proper, like the Phyrexianization, because you can't really do it, but you make like a whole one out of it, and the Elish was already available. I don't know.
Yeah. The kind of controversy, I don't know, that came out of it is that the cards that are for Judge promos, because Judge promos, it is the way of giving back to judges, where it's, the the judges are people who work during expos. You know what I mean? You have to like be apply to the judge program. I think you have to pay for it as well. And these judge promos are a way of, you know, kind of giving back to the judges for all their hard work and everything they've invested in being judges. And they are also can be sold at quite a high price. So it is effectively like giving them free money, or like what it's giving them money, or it's giving them exclusive cards that no one else can get. So the controversy here is that by reprinting it in a very slightly different way, are you undermining the judges? Is it disrespectful to them? Obviously, it's the judge promos is something that was just take away. So there's a whole kind of dynamic thing going on there. I genuinely see it from both sides. I think that, you know, it is disrespectful to the judges if you're constantly churning out the artworks that only they're getting. But I do see it from the side of the classic. It's the classic kind of reserve list argument, isn't it? Of going, well, the original Birds of Paradise and the original Llanowar Elves don't lose their value just because they reprint them, even with the same artworks. But I don't know it well enough, and we have, because this is something they're doing more and more regularly. It's a bit too soon to say whether it will actually have an effect. And also, it's less about the money as well as more about just the actual. This is more of a respect call than a money call, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I see it from both sides. It's worth acknowledging that there's controversy here, especially around the Elesh Norn. And yeah, as much as it's exciting to see Phyrexian script, I agree with you as well. The border is just maybe a little bit too 14-year-old metalhead album cover.
I like spikes and stuff. I mean, isn't that Phyrexia through and through? I guess also the other question is whether or not.
Well, then they nailed it.
Well, yeah, I guess did they want to maybe show what the Phyrexians, what the Praetors look like now, and maybe because that's the thing, right? If they didn't give new artwork, they didn't go like, "Hey, we're going back there at some point in the next year." Obviously, because we keep fucking hinting at it in everything that we're doing. So maybe we show you like a glimpse of what they look like now, but maybe they didn't want to do that because it's a shock. Maybe it's going to be we go back and we're like, "Holy shit!" Like Elesh Norn's like 14 feet tall, and you know they do like the Lady Demetrescu. Oh man, I've just realised I don't know how to pronounce it. Demetrescu. There we go. You know, you're like, oh shit, I don't know how to pronounce the word I'm about to say. Yeah, or like say maybe Urabrask is dead and it's Koth that's been completed as the Red Praetor or something like that. They don't want to give away any hints while still going. It's coming, guys. Don't worry, it's happening. It's like the J.R. Martin thing of. I swear I'm writing the next book. I swear it's happening. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's coming. Phyrexians are coming, guys. Yeah, so I get that feeling. Cool. Whatever. Good. Great. More chances for people to play Vorinclex. I'm sure the world's happier for it.
All right, moving on. We have a Mother's Day drop. Mother's Day 2021 with Mother of Runes, Mother of Runes, Mother of Runes, and Mother of Runes. All different cards. So we have 4 copies of Mother of Runes, each from a different artist. So we have Livia Prima. I'm looking at very low-res versions. Sorry. Elliot Mitchell. We have Rebecca Gay and Edge Abenbe. So yeah, 4 different artists. Obviously, Rebecca Gay is a very known magic artist and has done quite an incredible piece, really. 4 very different artworks. Each of them are quite illustrative and lots of color, very sort of dense and detailed artworks. Obviously, Mother of Runes is just one of those classic magic cards. It really does transcend formats. It's one of those kind of like just forever cards for Magic the Gathering. And obviously, because Therese Nielsen illustrated one of the most prominent versions of it, it's probably good to get many more versions out there.
Yeah, literally 4 of them. Hey, you've got a selection. I guess one of the best things about this, like the really interesting thing, I guess it's also one like kind of mirroring the Father's Day to Fairy Lair, right? Because that was a thing as well. They all have new flavor text as well, which is obviously worth noting.
Sure. Yes, indeed. Yes, so the Rebecca Gay one, for example, says, even if the heaven should fall or the earth split beneath your feet, I will keep you safe. And, I mean, the Rebecca Gay one, for me, is just the most moving. I don't really see how you can sort of think otherwise. I mean, well, art is subjective, isn't it? But it's showing a mother in a, I guess what you would call just a very simple, like, dress, almost like, I'm trying to think of the word. What is the word for, like, sort of ancient Greek, ancient Roman... tunic, yeah, it's just like a woman, like a mother in a tunic, cradling a baby to her bosom while she's protecting the child from, like, there's a planet falling on top of them, and there's storms and rain, and a big serpent's coiling around their feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's just it's a very intimate piece of artwork, and it's also like this is gonna sound very sort of like hollow and a bit understanding coming from like a childless 30-year-old man. Right, like who's into like he's just looking at this as a piece, but the fact that it is so like almost violent in a way. The fact that it's the like vulnerable naked child being cradled to the mother's bosom, and that's the focus of the piece. It's something that you really just don't see in magic, and I can imagine it's a lot of it is to do with taboo nature. Like there are people out there who fucking think breastfeeding in public is gross. Fuck you if you think that. I'm sorry if you're listening to this. There's a whole stigma and a whole taboo around motherhood and the connection between like parents and their children on like a very intimate level, especially when they're like babies. And so to see this celebrated, but not in just a like, oh, isn't motherhood like, gentle and wonderful? It's like, no, it's violent, and you're a protector as well as a nurturer. Yeah, the Rebecca Gay piece is just wonderful, and it's the kind of thing as well that Rebecca does in her portfolio outside of magic quite a lot more. As well as also doing things that are a lot more romantic fantasy. That although the art style is very recognizable, it's good to see the subject matter and the kind of more sort of like, no, this isn't a magic card. This is an artwork about the violence and the sort of fragility of motherhood, like versus like the sort of strength of it. That just happens to be on a magic card. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things, right? I mean, yes, okay, the average Magic player isn't going to be a mum, but that doesn't mean that there aren't mums that play Magic. So it's quite nice to lean into the mum role of Mother of Runes, as much as lean into the whole. Cool, I guess my creatures have protection now. It's like, well, no, it's like it's supposed to evoke that bond, that as you say, that animalistic nature of protecting. I think it does so. I think it does so very well. I say like all of even some of the flavor texts are kind of like tongue in cheek, but most of them like have that feeling of so for example the Prima one is each of them is my child and no harm will befall them while yet I breathe. The idea of like you can be anybody's mum and protector as well as the one to your own children, whereas some of them like have the tongue in cheek kind of thing of don't eat anyone before dinner, you ruin your appetite. That kind of like that kind of like mothery role. Like there's so many different roles to mums. So I think of all of the cards that you get 4 of, like the Thalia, for example, everyone loves Thalia. It was really cool to get 4 different artworks for her. But I mean, that's more of a play set towards like legacy players or something, right? Where you're going to be playing like Hate Bears or like, Death and Taxes or whatever. That's not necessarily super prominent in something like Commander, which maybe these products are kind of leaning towards. Whereas Mum, like Mother of Runes, is super playable. So now you've got 4 different artworks, kind of you can flex which one goes into what, which flavor of it you want, or the different shades of Mum. So yeah, I think this is one of the cards that you could have done a playset for very comfortably. I don't think it feels wrong, right? You're not going to struggle to find 4 places for Mum. Is it a white deck? Cool, put Mum in it.
Yeah.
Every deck deserves a good Mum at the end of the day.
All right. Now, moving on from the wondrous nature of parenthood to I'm excited about these bits of paper with pictures on them. These are technically it's 2 super layers. It's 2 secret layers. So it's Dan Fraser is back, the allied signets, and Dan Fraser is back, the enemy signets. Does what it says on the tin. Dan Fraser is illustrating the signets, more commonly known to be found on Ravnica, but this time it's just with Dan Fraser art, and it's the allied color pairs and the enemy color pairs to make the full 10. Holy shit, these things are pretty.
Yeah, this is like proper throwback, right? I mean, they've done a lot of precedence with this, with the putting newer cards in old borders, right? They did this with Modern Horizons 2, of where they did some. I guess I've done it with a few sets now, of where they've used like the old border treatment. So this isn't something new, but this is like, hey, we can't like really do signets in any other set, and I know that everyone likes them and maybe doesn't want to have it be specifically tied to guilds, even though it's in the name. So I guess let's give it to the person who did the original mocks, and see if people like that. It's like, well, yeah, like why did you think people wouldn't like? I don't know why am I creating a false narrative? But yeah, the whole point is like, yes, that's exactly what people wanted. Try and do something that does disassociate a little from the whole. Oh, they're just specifically charms that are used on Ravnica. It's like they've kind of he's lent into. Obviously, again, the names are still synonymous, right? They still have, Azorius Signet, Dimmer Signet, all that nonsense, but they do tend to lean in slightly different favors, right? They kind of plays on them a little bit differently. Like, yes, the Izzet one has almost like, I don't want to say dragon claws because it could be bird talons, it could be anything, but it's got like a red jewel and a black, a red jewel and a blue jewel kind of in the talons of what looks like a bird. Could it be a dragon? I guess that's maybe just me assuming that it's draconic because of the whole Izzet and Niv-Mizzet thing. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I do think they're just bird talons. I think there's a couple of them that don't necessarily stray too far from what we're used to. Something like, say, Oars of Signet, that looks like it could just be in Ravnica, but the others, some of them are just vastly different, right?
Yeah, the two that I'm sort of like pulling towards as like you really nailed the sort of back and forth on that one between having sort of, you know, recognizably it could be Ravnica versus no, this is just Dan Fraser doing mocks for signets, is the Boris Signet and the Dimir Signet. So Dimir Signet shows a sort of stylistic eye with sort of black accents around a blue sort of part of a face that would be the eye with the eyeball in it. So obviously very evocative of what Dimir is, which is hiding in the shadows, plus also gets the two colors in. And then Boris Signet is it's almost two sort of pendants in one. So it's a red shield and a white shield with the two different jewels and sort of ivory sort of inlay for the different colors of the shield. And it's just, you could imagine that on the breastplate of a Boros Legionnaire as like a medal or something. But also, there's nothing overtly Ravnican about a red shield and a white shield that couldn't, you know, put it on somewhere else, or even just have it be just generic fantasy. So I think, yeah, I mean, just again, like when you're talking about magic art from early days of Magic, there is a sort of reverence that's placed on magic art from early days, and especially for iconic cards. And even with art that is subjectively or otherwise just not maybe as slick as the art that you would expect from the game today, and maybe is art that, you know, was very much of its time, you still have a hard time. I'm having a hard time now saying it. You have a hard time saying, no, that's just shit artwork that just has happened to be in the game for a long time, because you don't want to be negative about it. And also, like, it does have a reverence. The mocks fit into that category of being, not only are they iconic artworks that you would not find in the game today, but they're also incredibly good. And like, just, they are absolutely the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, mocks.
Yeah,
that is
for sure.
There is nothing else that you would expect when you think of a mocks. Like, the Dan Fraser artworks are there. I also really love the fact that they've got the old borders, as when we did a whole border episode where I actually said that from artistic and stylistic point of view, I'm a huge fan of all the newer styles of borders versus the older style of borders, but it does work in some respects. And I think, yeah, putting these in the old style border, and then also they're going to be etched foil, is that right?
I believe so, yeah. I believe they're going to be etched. I can't remember exactly all of the different treatments for all of them. I know most of them are available, if not all of them are available as foil compared to like normal, but I think they're going to do different styles for each of them, which is, yeah, very cool. I mean, I've yet to see an etched foiling of an old border. I haven't opened any Modern Horizons.
Well, I mean, as previously discussed, I will probably not be opening any Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen of videos, it depends on whether you get them in the collector booster and the set boosters. So one of them has the foil, and it also depends what kind of foiling you get. So some of the foilings, it is just like the old school, where it's just the border and not it's just the frame and not like the text box and the artwork. So it is like how it is. Some of it is they've foiled the whole card, but it's just got the retro frame on it. And then I think the etched is everything, but like how they've done in etched foils in the past, they've obviously highlighted the kind of trim of the frame and the border to kind of raise things off of the card. Too many foilings, frankly.
There's too many different fucking frames, everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, God, it's like, more isn't fucking more. What did you think?
Stop it
when we said that?
Yeah, we were joking. We didn't realize what we meant. We take it back. And I think I like about these more than anything is that they didn't shy away from like leaning into the old backgrounds as a kind of like oily kind of washy kind of look of where, and we've said this about the bag of rocks, right, of where we're like, it's nice to see signets and things like that not just floating in air, like like being used for what they are, whereas this is the opposite, where they go, no, this is kind of like a throwback in not only in the art style but also in the artistic direction, everything. It's so, as you say, when you say it's like iconic, it's like, it's not just iconic, it's evocative, right? Good, great. Well, that's that's my get the fuck out of the hotel because your checkout time's come out. Yeah, that's what that is.
Is that really what that is?
That's what that is. Yeah, because it's literally midday, and that's great, amazing. It's almost like
I think that maybe wraps up our episode then.
That's amazing. I mean, to be fair, we got to the end of it, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. Ugh.
If you want to talk to us about these secret layers, then you can reach us on our Twitter at mtflavouring. Emails go to mtflavouring@gmail.com.
Oh, God.
My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's, yours is...
At the Fox in the fucking Moon. Jesus
Oh
Christ.
my gosh.
Oh man, next week will be much more organised and structured. Sorry guys to throw this into the
this
middle
is
of our
it.
hectic careers.
This is it. We have put out on social media and we've spoken about on here how just the world around us is spinning at an alarming rate, and then suddenly it stops, and then suddenly it starts again. So we will be endeavouring to keep these episodes coming out. I am actually very excited to talk about Dungeons and Dragons eventually.
Same. Yeah.
So we will make
some
sure
deep
that we do that.
dives for like Mel reasons more than even like the flavour. I mean, I guess this is the thing, right? Mel is also flavour, and there's a lot of that in the D&D set. So yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about.
Also, werewolves. So
yes, oh dude, I've got so many things I want to talk. Yeah. It's almost like I want to rush to next week, right? Like fuck the Lairs, as much as they were really cool and great, and I'm probably going to buy a couple of them. Like fuck the Lairs, let's talk about D&D, stupid wizards, and their everlasting train of hype.
All right, well. Nathan clearly has to get out of his hotel room.
Yeah, so, I've got being kicked out. Right, bye.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavouring.
We'll see you soon.